Hey guys, what's up? It's Keppa, and I'm bringing a review for you of the TCL 40XL. It's like $139 on Amazon right now, at least the version I got, which is the 4 GB version. I got it because I feel like in the States, the only phones that you can really get that are this cheap are Motorola's that at least work well on major carriers. But I haven't had a TCL phone myself, so I just wanted to check it out. All right, looks like we got the phone in here with a little protector on it. In the box we have a 30-watt charger, so this phone supports fast charging, which is nice. Not a lot of budget phones in the States support that. Cable, which I've got plenty of, but always nice to have. And then a little SIM ejector tool. This phone has dual speakers, and it's not just an earphone speaker that is amplified when you're listening to stuff, which is what kind of got me excited about this phone. All right, I've got this phone set up, and I've downloaded some games and gone on YouTube and listened to a little music. And I have to say the things that I was most excited for in this phone, which were the screen, since it's from TCL, a huge TV company, and the speakers kind of let me down. So I'll just give you a little sample right here. So while the speakers aren't bad, for a dual speaker setup, I've had phones that had just one speaker that were a lot louder and sounded better. So they're decent, but as like a large selling point, I wouldn't make a decision on it. As for the screen, you can definitely tell it's not OLED. There's a lot of color bleed. I don't know if it comes through very well on my camera, but it does not look great, and there's a lot of shift when you move the screen overall. And then also it's 720p, and you can really tell on this panel. When things are large, you can't, when you're watching videos, it's not the most noticeable thing, but when you're looking at text, it is very noticeable. Now I'll get into a little bit of gaming and show you what it's like. One thing that I don't like about this phone is that it boots up and it's really slow when I load any games. And then when you're actually in the game, you get it feels like 10 FPS max, and it's the lowest settings. But I'll show you here. So I'll get all logged in, then load it. This is loading. I figured I'd just go over some high-level things that I like and don't like about this phone. So there's pretty much just two things that I actually like about this phone. It's that it's on Android 13. What I don't like is, as I already mentioned, the dual speakers here are that in name only. They don't sound great. They don't have a lot of depth. The haptics feel terrible. It feels like you're pushing a bag of sand. And then the camera is pretty bad. The macro is awful. I'll throw some pictures at the end of this video that will show how the camera is on this phone, but the macro, I can't even get anything to go into focus. And then the regular camera is just all right, but the way that they hype it up is, I don't know, it seems like false advertising, but so do most phones, so nothing too crazy. The other thing that I don't really like about this phone is just the build quality doesn't feel great. It feels like I'm holding a children's toy. Yeah, it just feels really cheap, which I guess could be nice, if it breaks or something, you won't care all that much compared to a more premium feeling phone. But I'll create some other videos pretty shortly here that'll compare this against phones that cost about the same amount of money and, in my opinion, are much better phones. I actually haven't even popped my SIM into this yet, because using it for just a couple of hours, I don't know, I can tell that I wouldn't like this as a daily driver. And to me, you'd be better off buying something on Swappa or Facebook Marketplace, or just a couple years old renewed phone from Amazon, or even sometimes new phones get down to this cheap, as long as they're a couple years old. All right, I finally loaded into the game. I'll just run around a little bit here. I don't actually play Genshin Impact myself, but I know it's like one of the most demanding games you can play, so I've downloaded it. And you can see it's just like, it does not respond at all. This is terrible. experience here. And you got to remember, this is running in 720p, so it should be running a little better than it is. And this is just freshly booting the game, so the phone's not really hot or anything, so there's no throttling yet. While you are playing, though, after a while, the phone does start to get hot up by the camera bump, so I'm sure performance will just get worse as you go along. Alright, so now I'm going to show you Asphalt. Alright, here's Asphalt. I'll just hop into a game real quick and show you how it is. Keep replaying this tutorial level, I think, because I'm exiting. Alright, here we go. And like Genshin Impact, this takes forever to load, so I'll probably cut to when this has loaded. Alright, the race is finally loaded, and I'll get into it. Yeah, there's the tutorial, even though I keep playing it. So you can see that this runs a little bit better, but even still after a while, you'll probably see that it starts to glitch a little bit. But honestly, if you're not playing the most demanding games, I wouldn't be too concerned about the power. But again, compared to the other phones that are in this same price range, to me, this is just an awful deal, because even in the UI, like, I'll notice stutters just searching the app drawer. You open Google Play and it's really slow. I don't know if it's the wireless modem in there that slows down Google Play, but the app drawer, since it's all just local, should not be as slow as it is. So overall, I think this is just like not a great phone, even for the price. I think you could do a lot better for the same, or a little bit more, and you can get way better. Here is the camera on the TCL, taking a video of my beautiful cat. Zooming in on his face. Seems pretty all right. Does not look like there's any stabilization. I'm gonna see if I can take a video with the macro now. Selfie with the TCL 40XL, and the macro camera cannot be used for video, or at least I haven't figured out how to use it for video, so I'm not gonna do that. But all things considered, when I took pictures with the macro, I couldn't even get it to focus, and it looked really bad. So probably gonna be the case if we take a video. All right, so I've been playing around with this phone for a little bit, a couple days, and honestly, I gotta say, this is an awful phone for your money, I think. I have these two other options here, the Bold and the Redmi, which were, I think, within like $10, and both of them are significantly better. The only redeeming quality about this phone is that it's running Android 13. Other than that, the camera's bad, the haptics are bad. Surprisingly, the battery's really bad. I did a battery test against those two phones, and this phone only made it just shy of 7 hours, whereas the Blue made it 9, and then the Redmi made it almost 10. And that was just watching YouTube videos and then playing a couple games. So honestly, I just would not recommend this to anyone. The cameras are pretty mediocre. Yeah, they're 50 megapixels, and then there's a macro. The macro is awful, as you'll see, or as you already saw in the camera samples. But overall, this phone is terrible. Feels cheap. The dual speakers don't sound very good. The screen is 720p, and the usual trade-off you'd get for 720p is better battery life. But as I already said, this phone's battery life is just terrible, which is crazy. because it's got a weak chip and low res screen and really poor brightness. Like if you're outdoors and it's a really bright day, you won't be able to see. I mean, you can see in here, I'm in my kitchen, and it's not very bright outside, and yet you can barely see the screen. So yeah, don't get this phone.